And good evening, everybody. It is Thursday night. It is time for the American Scouser TV Thursday night podcast, or as the cool kids are calling it, ASTV with me, Macka, and the fantastic Jamie. Jamie, how are you?
Grand, mate. Not too bad.
We have a chance to talk properly tonight about like proper positive stuff because the midweek at least was good so far. And then we don't know what we're going to get coming up to the weekend. It could go one way or the other.
But we can be positive.
Yeah, we're going to be positive. We're the positive show. But yeah, so lots to talk about from Wednesday, lots to talk about for Sunday. But we will start as always with the 60-second news. 60-second news.
Right, Reds. Let's get stuck straight in. So after the win at our first ever trip to Ibrox last night, we only need 1 point to qualify from 1 point from 2 games, Reds. So happy days. We're pretty much in there. Rumors also today out of various sources that the club have agreed to play AC Milan in Dubai during the World Cup, or as it will now forever be known, the Origi Derby. And of course, the news from last night is Mo Salah is back breaking records. It's the fastest hat trick in the UCL. 6 minutes and 12 seconds, ladies and gents. Fastest hat trick in the UCL. 9 touches, 3 goals. A third of his touches were goals. That's also a Champions League hat trick record. And let's not forget Jota as well, because he's the first Liverpool player to get a treble, assist, hat trick, whatever you want to call it, since Stan Collymore and Robbie Fowler in 95 against Arsenal. And it's also the first in the Champions League since 2012, Ribéry to Gomez. So there we go, Reds.
Good stuff there. That is it. And that's how you time that. Nice news about the Origi Derby, which, to be fair, is he's a character for us. We love him. He's a legend for so many reasons, and probably for different reasons in AC Milan right now, because it didn't seem like it ended up going too well for him.
But we're not bashing Divock Origi, right?
We would never bash Divock Origi. As much as I like Brendan, he did deserve some of the bashing, but not Origi. He may have not been our best player ever, but he came through lots of times when we needed him to. When greater lights didn't. I'm not talking about anybody there, Mr. Mario Balotelli. But yeah, fantastic news. But although a match during the World Cup, you can see the point of it, but another one where you kind of wish they probably got the break almost, wouldn't you?
Well, they're going to Dubai for this training camp, this hot weather training camp. So who knows? Doesn't sound like much of a break, does it?
No, a tax-free training camp is probably what it is.
No better place. No better place.
But yeah, I mean, probably psychologically, it'll probably be a good idea as well to get them over to that part of the world and keep them almost part of the festivities in the region as much as they are. But yeah, no, it'd be nice to see that. Like, it might be a little bit of a break for us during the World Cup, politically, and for us Irish people sportingly, because we don't really have anybody to support.
Because we've got nothing to watch.
Except for everybody who's playing England. Alan says, good evening, and great to see you again, as always. So let's get on to it. Wednesday, yet again, we start by giving a team a leg up. We are almost, for any Irish people that may be watching, we are almost the gay born of soccer, and for the Americans, we're the Oprah Winfrey. There's one for everybody in the audience. Have a goal, and then let's get on with things. It was almost predictable, wasn't it?
I mean, yeah, fair enough. I'm just glad you didn't say a game of 2 halves. If you come out with any of these Michael Owen cliches, we'll be here all night. No, it was a good game, and it was kind of to be expected. But yeah, it took us a minute to maybe adjust. Obviously, the atmosphere is good in there, and they get right behind them. And then, at 1-0, the atmosphere went even more mad. But yeah, we all know what happens after that. But well, it didn't happen immediately. It took us a while to grow into the game, but you're in a game there. Like the crowd are right behind them, and it's a daunting place. But they took the game to us, so fair play.
We want to stay away, obviously, for humor's purposes, away from the whole cliche of the game of two halves. But as much as it may have taken us a little bit of time to get into it, did you get the impression that maybe a minute or two after Rangers scored, it was almost like they just went, okay, now it's time to get going. Now we're going to see what we're capable of.
It did feel like that because, look, Liverpool, Champions League, we know what to do. Group games, we're sometimes we've got through with the skin of our teeth, but we should be, top in that group realistically. If we're gonna, have decent anticipation and expectations of ourselves, we should be top in that group. But yeah, we've had a rocky start, and some would say we were lucky against Ajax. Some would say we didn't play great against Rangers, the first time round at Anfield. So, yeah, it very much felt like we knew what to do or was needed to be done after we went 1-0 down, because we did snap into gear somewhat. And then the second half was obviously different when we were able to make the changes that we did. But yeah, it felt like the lads knew what to do.
But even without the Salah hat-trick, I mean, it's still a dominant game overall for at least 3/4 of it, let's say, without that hat-trick. So the narrative can't be that Salah pulled us out of the fire. It really was a good performance all around once we got going, wasn't it?
That's it. Like, and obviously Salah will get the plaudits, and my 60 seconds, he's breaking the records. He's back amongst the big time. Like, he's up there with Haaland and who else leading the UCL charts. But absolute credit has to go to players like Bobby, who are forever getting forgotten. And this is Bobby Firmino we're talking about. Jota obviously does well too, but the narrative can't be the 6 minutes that Salah scored, because he has time for Klopp to sub him off then and give him a round of applause. The game shouldn't be about him. It should probably be about players like Bobby, and he was effervescent, wasn't he?
I mean, did you expect to see Bobby start? If we were going to do the 4-2-3-1, did you maybe think maybe it was going to be Jota again, or did you expect Bobby to start? But in the fact that he did start as well, I mean, he was the perfect number 10, wasn't he?
I mean, we said this last week too when it came to the weekend game and whether or not you would rather start Bobby or put in Darwin or whatever. We were trying to come up with the permutations of that, but it's very hard to not start Bobby because of his form right now, and because what he can do when he can unlock those passing lanes and one little bit of skill or one bit of forward thinking, and it's around the corner and somebody else is in. He is the glue that holds everything together up there. And maybe now we can start to see what life is going to look like as we hope Darwin to become more like Bobby Firmino. Do you know what I mean? Like, if we could have his strength and his fitness, or sorry, not his fitness, his speed and Bobby's technique on the deck, it would be something else. But yeah, I mean, look, Bobby deserves all the plaudits he gets, because I've always loved him. There's a certain amount of Liverpool fans out there that have always had Bobby's back, but for whatever reason, a lot of people like to give him grief, and we know he's went through barren patches before, but he is in top form right now.
He is one of those players, isn't he? That he never really gets low. He just kind of gets average for a bit. But when the magic comes back, I mean, it's as good, if not sometimes better than the magic that Salah. Well, probably better than the magic that Salah brings, because he actually brings special, creativity. Where Salah's just a goal machine when he's on form. Bobby really is the talisman sometimes, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, Bobby makes everybody else look better. That's the big difference. I mean, Salah looks great when he scores goals and that quick little stab home. You know, when Salah's on fire, he's on fire, and you're guaranteed, you know, something out of the game. But when Bobby's on fire, it seems to be that everybody plays well.
Just a note on Salah. It occurred to me while watching the game and then watching it back. We talked, I think, before about Salah forcing the issue a lot of the time, and that's why his goals have sort of dried up. But he almost looked like he was the calmest he's been in a long time. And I think defined by that one little pullback that he did to slow the ball down, I think for the second goal before curling it in a classic Salah fashion. Do you think that maybe the penny has dropped a little bit, that he doesn't have to be so over complicated when it comes to scoring his goals?
It would certainly look. There's a lot of pressure, and I'm sure even a player like Salah is feeling it. You know, given what Liverpool have been going through and on and off form, and you know all the rest of it. So he's bound to feel some of that too. He's only human, but I think you're probably right. You know that again. We talk about these things, you know, that over complication of it. Like, there's no need. Salah knows where the goal is. You know, that old cliche. Throwing out another one now. You know, the goalposts never move. He knows where they are, and you know, some of his goals are unbelievable to watch. Where he does look like everything slows down around him, like that little drag back. And he, you know, in off the post. He's just a brilliant striker when he's on his day. But yeah, good to see those goals too.
Well, I'm not sure about the goalposts never moving, Jamie. You've clearly never played in the Leinster Senior League Division 7 Sunday the group, because there was plenty of goals that moved in the breeze then. But one thing that was, I thought, we've talked about, you know, the gelling of the team here on this show before. It seemed to me when we were waiting for the Harvey Elliott goal to be confirmed or struck off, that there was a togetherness that we hadn't probably seen openly about wanting Harvey Elliott to get that goal. And not only were Liverpool showing the world that, you know, we might actually be back, so watch out, but we were also showing racial and religious harmony between a Muslim and clearly a Christian blessing himself.
Yeah.
And hope for the goal to go. But it seemed to me, in all seriousness, a moment that said that we don't have to worry as supporters, that the team really are together. They just can't get it right sometimes. What do you think?
I think you're spot on. I think, you know, Mo is the kind of person who's going to take a young player like Harvey under his wing. Of course he is, you know, but nothing says he has to. Nothing, you know, any other club in the world, you know, nothing says any players like those star profile players have to do that. Some of them will, out of the goodness of their heart. And Mo is definitely, you know, a good person. You can tell that, like, not just his public persona and his PR, but I think having those types of players, genuinely, not that I think young Harvey needs it. You know, he's had his controversies in social media and all the rest, but I think he's a level ahead enough young kid. But having a player like Mo Salah beside you and players like Milner too, you know, he's a teetotaler, and look at the shape of him right now compared to Wayne Rooney, who's a similar age.
True. What was I going to say? So in terms of the chemistry and the system of play, we really did click into not just another gear, but two gears up once we got going. That in a way that Rangers, if you read the commentaries in the papers from the respected journalists, they just gave up after a while, didn't they? Do you think that the system change just suits this group of players and the way they are better than the 4-3-3 that we're so used to?
Yeah, it's got to be, hasn't it? You know, it surely it can't be as simple as that, but I guess it is. I mean, they've bound to have worked on it a lot, or as much as they can in training. So it's not like just simply, you know, championship manager, football manager style. We're just going to plop him here. We'll go to 4-2-3-1. We'll be grand. It's not as easy as that. They've definitely worked on it in the training ground, but you know, again, everybody can remind themselves that it was only Rangers, but it was Rangers in a Champions League fixture, and You know, 7-1, does it really flatter us? I'm not so sure. We did play them off the park, and they did, you know, quit halfway through. A couple of great performances, getting great goals. So I don't really know if 7-1 does flatter us a whole lot, because it was unbelievable.
I think you're correct. It definitely didn't flatter us. If you look at our shot count for the whole game, I mean, that would scream domination for any team against any opposition. It's almost the kind of shot count you would expect in an FA Cup third round tie against Wheelstone Athletic or something like that. So there can't be any complaints about the scoreline. But for me, I think we can dismiss the scoreline a little bit, because it was the togetherness and the cohesion of the performance, which is almost more important. Do you think we would have? There'd be as much positivity if we'd have maybe just won a 3-1 with the same performance. The goals were almost like cherry on the cake or the milkshake or whatever it is, over the performance itself, which was excellent.
Which 3 goals are you picking, though?
Let's take Salah's out, because he's cheeky. he stole Bobby's line, like
he did. Bobby's header at the front post is fantastic. It's just it's an instinctual thing being a striker, and you stay on that front post. He's almost got 2 men marking him right there, but he's just quicker to react to it. He knows before the ball's played in where he needs to be, what he needs to do. He kind of manhandles him a little bit and just gets first to the ball. I loved it. I suppose you got to have Harvey's in there too. I really want a Mo Salah goal, mate. You can't do that to me. You pick the third one.
Let's go the toe poke Salah one.
Yeah.
Just because it was the other 2 were classic Salah, and that's what we want to see. You want to see Mo Salah measuring up his options, finding Roberto Carlos like curvature through space time, and not a bulging net. That little whiffle that the ball does when it curls in, like that's the Salah we want to see. But talking about the formation, we have also again discussed how teams that sit back causes a lot of problems, because we tend to play the ball backwards an awful lot more. And Rangers certainly played defensively in the first game at Anfield, but yesterday it was that was a much more positive arrangement from Rangers, which created a lot of space for us. But if you look at our formation, it's still the 4-2-3-1, but we commented on the gap between the 2 midfielders and the defenders, and then the 4 attackers last week. But this seems a lot more balanced, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it does. It's compact. We were up for it. I mean, you're absolutely right about Rangers too. They were as well drilled as you would expect, and they weren't playing that 5 at the back. But yeah, I mean, so that's our overall average position.
Yeah, from the whole game, or not for the whole game. It's before the subs.
Yeah. So I'm fairly happy there, and I mean that's definitely it shows you that left back Samikis was more adventurous than Gomez, which fair enough.
That passed the eye test as well, though, didn't it? It just seemed like Gomez was almost like a third centre back to try and that balance at the back, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, aside from the great ball in, for Bobby's second, wasn't it? So I don't know. I mean, he done well. I thought Gomez did.
He did really, really well. What really impresses me about it is Bobby and Núñez aren't stepping on each other's toes at all, which can often happen with a goal scorer number 10 and a roving number 9. They end up occupying the same spaces. But it was almost not telepathic, but clearly something works between those 2 that maybe didn't work between Núñez and Jota, because Jota wanted to get into the same goal scoring positions as Núñez, and Núñez wanted to get into the same creating positions as Jota. But for yesterday, it just everything in the front four worked, even to the extent that the two outside midfielders were pulling defenders out of position for us, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, it is so exciting to see it finally, the gears start to turn up there because, like you said, it's not quite telepathic yet. However, it certainly looked close. It was poetry in motion, really. It was like watching some of the plays we were experimenting with up front. And like I said before, 7-1 doesn't really flatter us. Like it if you didn't see the game and just seen the scoreline, you'd be like, Rangers were crap. But it's much more than that.
I think before we go on to anything more, Liverpool, there was, not to bash Brendan Rodgers, but it's that time of day. Celtic were roundly mocked, especially by Liverpool fans, for the losses they incurred against, let us be very clear about, PSG and Barcelona, two of the best clubs on the planet, when he had Celtic in the Champions League. But the context is always that it's Scottish League football, and as dominant as those two teams might be in their own league, it's not enough competition for them to have that sort of, we're going to go at a big team in the Champions League. Does this scoreline reflect that no matter how much fans of Rangers and fans of Celtic, because they were the same, might want to believe, Scottish clubs aren't really ready for that level of competition yet? What do you think?
I mean, it's a difficult pill to swallow for the Scottish fans, isn't it? Because Scottish football to them may as well be the only football that happens in the world. Fiercely proud, but the harsh realities is, and I'm sure any true Scot would tell you that the game in Scotland is vastly underfunded. That from the ground up, they need a lot of work put into it and help. And I'm certainly not the one to comment on it. I'm not knowledgeable enough about Scottish football. We come from a part of Ireland. Well, we come from a part of Ireland. We come from Ireland. There's only two Scottish teams. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean it is great football up there because it means so much to so many people, and it's fiercely competitive. So, but they definitely need some help.
So moving back to Liverpool, what we talked about again a lot about Núñez and his development and being patient with him, and that he hasn't looked out of place. He just hasn't got the goals. Similarly, we also commented about how he might be overthinking things because he wants to score and he wants to do so well for Liverpool. But the guy scored last night. Do you think that it was so well done because he did not expect that ball from that fantastically exquisite FIFA touch from Firmino, and he had no time to think about it, so he just did what he did since he was probably 10 years old and hit it nicely into the corner? Do you think taking the thought out of that was what made it for him?
Yes, absolutely. But I would tend to give credit to the ball that Bobby played, because if somebody plays you a ball like that, you immediately become, Van Basten. You immediately become whoever, like somebody plays you a ball like that. The only thing you can do is hit it first time. So, I mean, definite credit to Bobby for the ball through, because that flair of a pass transfers some of that onto you. You'd be wrong. You'd be lying to me if you didn't think I'm putting this in the top corner before that ball even gets to your foot. Even though he didn't put it in the top corner.
But the thing for me the thing that struck me was nobody saw that the way the ball came to Bobby, he was going to have to control it, which would have, if you are Núñez, you're probably expecting the touch and you're probably trying to stay onside, whereas Bobby just rebounded the whole thing right into his path on the plate, literally, and then All it needed was the tap in. That's the magic that we just talked about from Bobby Firmino. But in terms of taking the pressure off a player, do you think maybe somebody has to get into Nunez's ear and just say, stop thinking about it. Just go do what we bought you to do?
I think that has to come from within, doesn't it, though? You can be told, you can have Ian Rush as a striking coach. You can have, all these greats as striking coaches. But at the end of the day, I think it has to come within. I think Nunez is very much that type of person. He's, the whole resiliencia thing, that he tweeted out. He seems to be very confidence driven, and he does have a strong young ego. So I think given the fact that he is starting to gel and you can see, like you said, and like we've been alluded to, it is becoming fluid. The gears are starting to turn. So, that, the proof is on the pitch, right? Another cliche, but here we go. So once he starts proving to himself, then he can believe more in himself. So I think it hopefully starts a snowball for him now.
Alan here being controversial, thinking that Nunez is overrated and who heard of him before he arrived at Anfield. Well, we did because he played against us. He did very well.
Or does Alan mean before he arrived at Anfield and scored against us?
Yeah. But do you agree? Do you think he's overrated as I do a last minute transfer window transfer and bring Trevor in? Howdy, Trevor.
Hello.
The question we're asking is Nunez overrated? And who heard about him before he came to Anfield, or is he just finally starting to gel with the team?
I have enough Benfica friends where it was not allowed to be a mystery to me before he showed up. So, yeah, I'll put him as properly rated as it currently stands.
So we were talking about the goal,
but that could vary from person to person.
Yeah. Yes, that is not set in stone.
Alan says howdy, late boy. So you've got an anti-Benfica fan there.
You've got late fines coming in the mail. Don't worry.
Late fines. Yeah, that's going to pay for the Christmas party. So what we said was the goal that he scored yesterday. It was a nicely taken goal, but my opinion was that because the touch of Bobby into his path was so unexpected, because it was that nice little Rabona touch, and you were probably. Everybody else was probably looking, he's got to take it onto his foot and then do his thing, but he just one-touched it in front of him, giving Nunez almost no time to think. We've spoken about this before on the show. Do you think Nunez is overthinking the game because he wants to do so well? And do you think maybe if that's the case, he just needs to be more instinctive with his play?
Yeah, because I think coming in this season, he definitely had that. The two big strikers coming into the league this year were him and Haaland, and now Haaland was off to this just monumental start, and now he's sitting here going, oh God, now I'm the B guy just by default, even though he has made big strides, I think, from his first game to where he is now in terms of just the cohesion with the team, and they're starting to utilize his talents, I think, better. But a goal like that, just to kind of have that little bit of wavelength with Bobby, I think is really important for him. Just so it's, yeah, like you said, just get out of his own head and just kind of have those just instincts take over, and just know that if you put yourself in the right positions, that Bobby's going to find you most times. And if you just put it away, he'll keep trying to get you the ball.
Jamie, we made this comparison before with Ian Rush spending most of his 4 seasons when he came into the Liverpool team trying to help everybody else to score before Paisley. He said, just stick it in the back of the net. We'll talk about it later. Do you think that's been a case for Nunez where he has tried to fit into the team and be unselfish when the actual thing he probably should have done was just be selfish?
I think you're probably right, because look, and again, I don't blame the lad for it. You're walking into an already fully formed unit, missing Mane and a few others, but realistically, you're walking into a team of winners. Nunes is no fool. He knows we've won the Champions League. He knows we won the Premier League. He's heard about us. So walking into that dressing room, you're going to have a bit of respect for the players you're walking in to play alongside with, and you probably will be a wee bit starstruck. But there comes a time when you realize, and I believe it was Alan Hansen talking about this when he was like, he caught himself after a couple of months. And he was wearing a Liverpool shirt. He's like, I'm in the team. Like I'm here. I'm in the dressing room with these lads. I'm here. So that'll come with him. Come with good performances, and come with time, and come with bonding with the teammates, bonding with the entire situation. He's still very young and in a new country and all the rest. So it was bound to happen, obviously. But I think the more time goes on, and look, you're right, Trevor. People are already making comparisons with Haaland, but if he can focus on what he knows best and what he is doing best, then forget what anybody else is doing, and that's what it boils down to. Self-confidence.
There's another story as well, Trevor, with when Liverpool signed Jan Molby. He had a similar problem trying to fit into the Liverpool system, and I believe it was one of Paisley's last signings, wasn't he, Molby?
I think so.
He took him aside, or Molby came up to him and said, "Boss, I don't know why I'm playing so badly. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing here." And Paisley apparently said, "Well, what did we buy you for? What did you do at Ajax? Just do that." When a player comes into a very systems-oriented team, or even if that's just the reputation, if that's just the optics, how much do you think that player is probably going to do themselves in injustice trying to fit the system rather than to accept, well, they bought me because of what I've already done?
Yeah, and it goes across all sports, but definitely more in football, where you're bought for a certain reason, but you always are looking of, I'm coming in to quote unquote replace player A. And in this instance, it's Mane, a guy who was a huge part going out, and him coming in, not like for like replacements, but you're expected to kind of just fill his shoes, even though you're doing something different. So you try to just do things, I guess, differently that initial ramping up period until you get comfortable. And sometimes you try to just, I don't know, not necessarily try too hard to fit in, but you try to make people forget about the old guy instead of trying to make people remember about you. And that's, I don't know, that could be times where you really don't focus on the right things. But I think he's finally starting to get over that hump where he's getting comfortable enough with the people playing around him, playing to his strengths, where he doesn't have to worry about dealing with the comparisons to the people that are no longer there.
We've spoken before on Nunes' performance about how he's all over the pitch. He's trying to help out the fullbacks. He's trying to score goals. He's trying to set up goals. But if we look at his touches from yesterday, it seems fairly concentrated on that left side. So it's almost interesting that Trevor makes that comparison to Mane there, Jamie, because it seems that the penny seems to have dropped of where he is supposed to be in the system. Do you think?
He does seem to tend to drift left. So, Trevor rightly said, they're not the same player, but they're being asked to do the same things, I guess. Nunes to me strikes me as a bit more of a central player who likes to drift out left, once he's in there. Whereas Mane was wide and drifted inside. Of course, you can interchange those and develop your pattern runs. But to me, when Nunes gets it right there at the edge of that box, he likes to cut left and then shoot back across goal, which I don't dislike. I think that's great for a left-sided striker. And maybe it's good that we are adopting these 4 forwards because we have the fluidity. We can still have a winger outside of him. But I think, you know, yeah, I think he is reverting to type a wee bit, and you need to do that. You know, think of when you know, your average everyday person joins a new job. You know, they're trying to impress everyone. They're trying to do the right things. They're trying to, you know, possibly be somebody that they're not. You know, whereas you're more likely to be more genuine if you just be you and do what you know best. Again, and you'll probably get more bees with that, honey.
Trevor, do you think, just to kind of finish up on this, Bobby, we said Bobby and Nunes seems to work a lot better than Nunes and Jota. But it seemed like because Nunes is the figurehead of the attack, so to speak, that defenders will pay a little bit more attention to him so that when he does drift out to the left, it creates that space for somebody as technically brilliant and as creative as Bobby to fill in, which we kind of saw yesterday, even if one of the goals was from the corner. Do you think that kind of relationship is going to be important? And what would it mean for Jota going forward if that's how it works out?
Yeah, and I think how they played throughout that game was very symbiotic. They made each other just enough space and enough situations where they could just do what they do exceptionally. And by that, I mean, when Nunez would make his runs, Bobby would find him. But if those led to nothing, Bobby would kind of have those secondary runs in where Nunez had that backwards outlet and he didn't have to rely on giving it to Carvalho out there as that kind of just behind him, just safety valve. Bobby would go in and take that responsibility to get the ball and then reset everything. And then Nunez could go do whatever he needed to do, either drifting out left, as Jamie said, that he did quite a bit, or just reset everything, kick the ball back out, and then do it all again. I think those two just working together really does a lot. What it does for Jota, if at this point he's a super sub until Klopp finds a way to make it work a bit more, if they're going to run the 4-2-3-1 a little more frequently, it's not great for him in the short term, but I think they have enough good minds in that coaching staff to make it so they can bring out the best of what Jota can do for that front four. And it's just a matter of time before everybody kind of gets their dinner.
Let's flip back to the opposite side of the field, Jamie. We talked about it earlier. We conceded yet again, gave a head start to another team. But this time we can't blame Trent for it because he was nowhere near the field. So where is it going wrong for us at the back? Is it a concentration issue? Is it a spacing issue? Are the midfielders too complacent at the start of the games? Is maybe Henderson taking too long to get into the games with how old he is now? What do you think it is?
Well, I mean, if we're looking to blame anyone, Carvalho did lose it, but I mean, I wouldn't blame anyone because we had opportunities to gain it back. But yeah, I mean, conceding first, maybe that's just our lure them into a false sense of security and really hit them where it hurts second half. Because like you said, it is something we need to get rid of. And I've seen it written online a couple of times. Yes, the stats and figures are out there. We have been conceding first a lot. But, you know, we have scored first a couple of times in recent weeks. You know, we scored against Ajax first. There have been cases where we have not conceded first. So let's just get back to those days when we were great and kept clean sheets. And there he is. There's
yeah. Trevor, in terms of you know, the mentality that we had before and that we're so used to of being probably one of the meanest, if not the meanest defense in the Premier League, to a team that just seems so generous. Do you think that maybe Jurgen Klopp needs to change his name to Jurgen Keegan?
I would love it.
And we'll just score one more than the opposition.
I don't think we're at that track meet football yet, but I think it's something where and they obviously have no answers. I have none. You sit there and you look at the way they try to go. Oh, come on, Timuchin, don't put that in the chat. That's just mean. But they the things that you see them the way they line up, and then you're trying to just figure out where the things go wrong. It's always something different. So there's nothing that you can really pin down. Everybody wants to make Trent the punching bag when those first goals go in, and I'd say it's probably like 30% where he has a out of position moment, and then something happens in that front. But how many times this year have we seen Matip like miss a header and then the guy scores right behind him, or Virgil, same deal. It goes through his legs. Something that never happened in like the past 3 years. Every single ball that Matip went for with his head, he got rid of. Every single time the ball came within Virgil's legs, he sent it to Mars. And now those plays are just happening more and more frequently. You can't explain it. It's just one of those things that just hopefully it just self-corrects with time, and then things go back to quote unquote normal. But until then, I think it's just a matter of being able to respond to those going down early moments and making the game level, and then composing yourself after that as quickly as possible.
Timuchin has said Jurgen Rodgers, and Alan has called him Brendan Klopp. But an interesting point I want to make before you move on to the weekend game is it is a matter of perception almost, isn't it? Because if this was Brendan Rodgers, he'd be getting ripped apart by fans and press alike for the exact same things, even if he had the exact same record as we do right now. It really is a matter of, if you win, you get that opportunity to correct it. And if you don't, you're chopped liver for a bit. It's such an interesting thing for how supporters react to things, and the press, especially in England, react to things, isn't it? Moving on, we have.
But we're not bashing Brendan Rodgers, right?
No, we're not bashing Brendan Rodgers. Oh, he's a lovely lad from Carnlough, no less.
I think he's getting a bit of a rub with the Jurgen Rodgers and Brendan Klopp thing. He's just getting a little bit of stardust just.
There you go. Yeah, so he's only going to lose 2-0 this weekend. It could be from the sublime to the ridiculous for us, or it could be the step forward to the next phase for Liverpool. But this weekend we have the big one, the best defense, or the best attack rather, against a very non-functioning defense. Jamie, how do you see this one going?
How do I see this one going? I don't know. Should we just rewatch the Mo Salah 6 minutes and 12 seconds for 90 minutes? Yeah, it's going to be a difficult one, this, isn't it? I always get excited around this game. This season, surprisingly, I'm not. I suppose I will get more and more excited closer to the game, but I am very nervous. We could show up. We could show up. We could stand up. We could announce ourselves. This could be, and look, everybody said it at Bournemouth too. Oh, this is the start of our season. This is it.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Trevor, it's an interesting point in that. Correct. We did kind of say that the Bournemouth score would kickstart the season, and it clearly didn't. But do you think the difference was Bournemouth were really a mess at the time? Like, if it wasn't us, it was probably going to be somebody else that gave them that kicking. Whereas Rangers were a very functioning team and played really well for a lot of the game in the first half. Do you think there's maybe a little bit more bite to Wednesday's result and performance than we had against Bournemouth? And do you think it's genuinely something solid we can build on going forward?
I really hope so, because, yeah, like you said, the first half of that Rangers game was like an Uno reverse card of how everybody thought it was going to go. They were attacking, and they made us have to really put down some markers of, okay, this isn't working, so we have to adapt. They're not going to just put 10 people in their box and do this again. So that's something that obviously City's going to bring to the table Sunday. They're going to just overwhelm you with just offense from every single corner of the field, which, yeah, it's something that we've dealt with in the past, and with varying degrees of success. But I think this, like you said, this result, I take more stake in than the Bournemouth one, because, yeah, Scott Parker got canned 12 hours after that, and he just went on a tirade. Whereas Rangers, I think they were a team that kind of wanted to not step on the grenade in the first game, then really just did cartwheels in the minefield in the second one, and we made them pay for every single thing that they did wrong.
I love that analogy. I'm stealing that.
But
granted. Permission granted. I really just think that this past game gave so many guys that needed confidence going into this game, which I really just, I'm still trepidatious. Like Jamie, I'm very nervous about Sunday, but I'm more anxious to just see what that confidence boost from Wednesday does for these guys.
To tie kind of what we talked about in the Rangers game together, we are coming up against the best attack, and our defense is a little bit suspicious sometimes. If we look at stats, we've conceded the same amount of goals as Leeds, Crystal Palace, and Wolves. It's not really a group that you want to be in, is it? Coming up against Haaland and Manchester City. Do you think that's going to have any bearing on how the game goes? Are we going to gift them yet again another opening goal, or is this the game that focuses and sharpens the minds, because any slip will be perilous, Jamie?
If it means we come back and score 7, by all means. I'd put.
The only problem is they could score 8.
I'd stick Allison in midfield for about half an hour. Why not?
Trevor, what do you think? Do you think the defensive record is something that we're easing out of? Is it an anomaly, or is it something to worry about for the game this weekend?
Oh, it's definitely something to worry about, and especially how that first 10 minutes goes. And I don't want to bring up the Arsenal game or anything, but it was something where you see that first notification go off, and you're like, you just told me the match started, and now you're telling me that they scored. What in the blue fucking hell is going on right now? If City has one of those things where they get something early, whether it be by hook or by crook, however they go about it, that is something where I think the floodgates will open, and it's going to be a very unenjoyable afternoon for myself and everybody else wearing red. But I think if they can weather that early storm, because after Haaland's performance in the Community Shield, he's going to want to come out and just try to bury one early. So maybe we take an early yellow, put him on his ass early, and just kind of let him know that there's going to be no easy goals for him. It's a very American mentality of just
not at all. I'm right there with. I am right there.
But my thing of it is, I'm coming from like a basketball background where the guy is scoring crazy amounts of goals. You just first time to the hoop, he's getting hit with an elbow, and I was usually the person delivering that elbow, and I'd get teed up and be like, okay, but no, now he knows if you're going to score on us, you're going to have to go about it a different way. So if that means he has to have that doubt in his mind that he has to go a different direction to try to score, I think that's important. As important as keeping the ball away from him is keeping him out of that mindset that things are going to be easy.
First time through the hoop is definitely one way to stop a player from playing his best game. I'll have to say that much at least. Jamie, we look there at the scores, the goals for column. City at 33 in 9 games is basically just over, I think, 3.5 goals per game. But Haaland is a massive part of that 33 goals. Do you think it's going to be a case that if we stop Haaland, we're pretty much going to stop Manchester City? Gives us a better chance of doing some damage ourselves?
I mean, you're falling into a dangerous trap there, I think. Yes, absolutely. In many ways, you're absolutely right. But City also have at least 9 other outfield players that can do you damage at any given time. Yeah, I do feel, Trevor, I love your tactic, and it's not American at all. It's unified. We all think like that, I think, because the English of the saying, let them know you're there early. The Irish also love that tactic of getting a bit of roughhouse in early. So yeah, I love that tactic. I had the same idea with the Arsenal game and Jesus. My idea was to let him know we were there early and that he wouldn't play well. He didn't end up getting his goal, but we didn't get the result, did we? So maybe the tactic could work, but adversely, City have so much wealth in attack and in defense and all over the pitch that they really can't turn on the style at any given moment. So we've got to be really resilient. We've got to be really up for the game and hope for a slice of luck.
Trevor, Jamie makes a good point about there is an embarrassment of riches at Manchester City, but as we saw during the week in the Champions League, they didn't play Haaland and they couldn't score against FC Copenhagen. So do you think there would still be some merit to paying just a little bit of extra attention to Haaland in order to nullify that threat and maybe take our chances on whatever they have left?
Yeah, and they have a lot of guys in flying form right now, but I think that is something to kind of look at is they sat him, didn't even bring him in at all, and they really struggled to, I don't want to say get through Copenhagen's defense, but that final ball, if you go watch the highlights, was never really there. And I don't know if they kind of just realized they were down to 10 men and they were pretty much already through in that group anyways, and they just kind of took their foot off the gas, which is something that is incredibly reasonable to suspect that they would go with that, and especially in a game like that where they lose a guy half an hour in. But it is kind of promising to know that a Danish team can make themselves compact enough, and every time that they came down the field, especially when they were trying to like work the ball up the middle, there was just always somebody there that would just kick the ball as far as they could the other direction. And if that's something that, say, if they run the lineup out there and Fabinho's that guy and doesn't try to get cute with it or anything, and every time the ball comes in his quadrant, he just absolutely boots it. And maybe we have guys that can just run down under it and then set up over there and kind of take the pressure out. I'm not proposing a thump and dump type of offense, but something where City felt really uncomfortable when they had that ball sent to the other side and they just kind of had to start from scratch again. And it almost, you want to say it would like piss them off. And then they would kind of like get that, all right, these guys are trying to embarrass us. But I think it more just frustrated them to the point where they just didn't want to play anymore. And if we can get them to that stage where they just want to pout like children, I like our chances.
Jamie, how do you see us lining up for this game? Do you think we're going to stick with A, the 4-2-3-1, and B, the personnel, with maybe the exception of obviously Salah getting in for Elliott or something? Or do you think we'll go back to the 4-3-3 for this one?
I think, I mean, the 4-2-3-1's working right now. We can't do anything other than that because we can't win with a 4-3-3, can we? Or at least, we can't lose. Let's just say that. I don't
the
know.
draw machine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think the 4-2-3-1's got so much weight behind it now with the amount of goals we've scored and certain players kicking back into form. So I think we've got to. And let's face it, if it's going to be one of those high-scoring games, it's going to be a great game for the neutral. Even if we don't get the results, it's going to be an interesting game, that's for sure. But I think that free-flowing attacking football, and if it's a high-scoring game, then why not? Let's go for it.
Trevor, let's throw a little cynicism onto the fire there for a little bit. What happens to us season-wise, at least in the league, if we lose this and lose it badly?
Well, and a lot of us feel it after the Arsenal result that the league itself is completely off the table. And while I personally fall into that camp as well, you don't want to never say never type of deal. Stranger things have happened, but I'm at the point where a loss Sunday doesn't absolutely blow up the chances of top four, but it makes it where the climb after the World Cup is going to be something where there's no room for error. That random 3-0 loss to Watford type of game can't happen. And depending on what the signings will be in January, I think there's just a lot that is going to be in play where you don't. I'm really trying to speak out of both sides of my mouth, where I want to just look at it with a bit of optimism for once in my life and go with the cynicism that you requested of, yes, I want there to be a future after a loss, but I'm trying to just talk myself out of it more than I need to, where
Right.
it's going to be an issue, and especially if it's something where we get blown out. But I don't think it's the end of the world if you lose to the team that is the odds-on favorite to win the league. But I want it to at least be respectable, so it can provide that, like the confidence boost from Rangers. If we go and lose 4-3 to City, I think that still puts us on at least a decent path, where if you get blown out 5-1, I think that just it's the Bournemouth thing again. It just nullifies all the progress that was made, and things could really go wrong.
Jamie, looking at the line that we could possibly pick, we talked, Salah probably goes back in up top. It's probably Nunes, Bobby again, maybe the Carvalho, or maybe Jota out on that left side. But at the back, who do we go for, Matip or Konate?
I mean, Konate's got that European style and does well in European big games, but I think it's time now that he's back fit. He was great, solid, strong. I love Konate. I think we start him for my money. But I'd probably go with Jota on the left wing.
Trevor, on the left fullback, Robertson came on and he just looked like he'd never been away against Rangers, probably because it was Rangers, to be fair now to the lad, being an ex-Celtic boy. But Tsimikas hasn't put a foot wrong, really. It's a difficult choice there, but do we go with the experience and the talent, objective talent of Robertson, or do we stick with the player who's been doing the job in Tsimikas?
If Robbo's ready to go, I say you go to him. I love Costas. I love the shift he's put in while Robbo's been out. He's a guy that has. I think the thing that Costas does better than Robertson is the deliveries on set pieces, which it showed during Rangers, and having that option off the bench, I liked having that back instead of just determining which youth kid that you were going to bring up and throw him in if things got out of hand.
Alan there has either his preferred psychedelic formation for the game or his phone number for anybody who's watching. I'm not quite sure which is which. Very quickly, Jamie, prediction score-wise for the game. What do you think?
Yeah, it's going to be a mental one. I predicted 4-3 last weekend for the weekend, didn't I? So I'll stick with 4-3 again just because Trevor talked me into it.
Trevor, what's your prediction for the weekend?
Okay, all right. 3-2 to the good guys. I'm being optimistic. It'll get thrown in my face again, but you know what? Fuck it.
I'm gonna go 4-1 Liverpool. Just to be crazy. Crazy.
Happy days.
So before
I'm
we
getting
go,
excited. I'm getting excited.
We can see there your monitor moved, Jamie. Before we go, we have our threshold question every week, Trevor. And Jamie, here's this week's one. If you were told you're going to wake up tomorrow morning as an ex-Liverpool player, you're going to have all of their experiences and all their memories and their personality, which one would you rather wake up as? Stuart Downing or Joe Allen?
Jeez. Oh, God. Okay.
I'll go Joe Allen because he was meme worthy just with the headband. Headband Joe was meme worthy and is still relevant. We're still talking about him. Stuart Downing's only ever talked about in bad breaths. Yeah,
but he did win a trophy though, didn't he?
He did.
So you'd have a medal to your name if you were Stuart Downing, but you would also be Stuart Downing.
But Joe Allen is what's the word I'm looking for? He never dies. Joe Allen is a legend.
Yeah, I'll go with the Welsh Xavi as well. I wouldn't be balding.
You'd have to go for you'd have to go for Joe.
Yeah,
you'd have to be Brendan Rodgers' favorite non-Spanish player. But because not even Stuart Downing probably wants to be Stuart Downing. Let's be fair.
Even Stuart Downing's picking Joe Allen here.
Yeah, that's probably true. The most boring man in football, and not in an ironic way, like our own legendary James Miller. So that's the show for tonight. The cool show that all the kids are calling ASTV. We will be back next Thursday. We have the morning coffee in the morning. Keep an eye out on the Discord, the Facebook page, the YouTube channel for maybe pre-match previews on Sunday. And then we will have the Monday night podcast to talk about the feast or the famine that we're going to experience this weekend. All that it remains is to say thank you, Trevor, for being fashionably late and adding your thoughts to our fantastic show. And Jamie, as always, what about you? What about you, son? What about you?
What about you, Brendan? What about you, Brendan?
And we have just very quickly, Alan has, who was the first Liverpool to score 3 successive hat-tricks?
Gotta be Little.
Oh, no.
Liddell.
It better not be Stuart Downing.
3 successive Hatties. It's got to be Billy Little.
Did Stuart Downing have 9 goals as a Liverpool player total?
It's not Billy Little.
I'm sure he didn't even have 9 pairs of shorts. He played so rarely. I have no idea. It's either actually Roger Hunt. That's who I'd say. No, come on, Alan. What's the answer?
3, 2.
Alan, don't leave us on a cliffhanger.
Alan, you should have had it typed in already to go.
Yeah, come on, Alan. Come on, Alan.
He's not telling us. Oh. He's not telling us. We're gonna have to end on a cliffhanger.
It's a Dallas style cliffhanger from Alan Walnut, who is now going to torture us till next Monday.
1946. No, I'm sorry, I'm tapping out. Unless the guy's name is actually Nope. That'd be funny if the guy's name is actually Nope.
Yeah, no, he's done it 3 times.
It was Jack Balmer, who wasn't
that the Kiefer Sutherland in 24?
Same guy.
It was the pen name for Stuart Downing. That was his hotel name. Right, gentlemen, we will see you next Thursday. Enjoy the game at the weekend, and everybody else, make sure you like, subscribe, bell, your laptops.
Hit every button
then-
at your disposal.
And then tell your parents you don't like school. And we will see everybody next week. Take it easy.
Up the Reds.